All right, and so far in our parts, we've got 4 parts we've modeled. We've got the train body, the stack, the wheel, and the axle peg. And in this video, we're going to look at modeling the cow catcher as part of the last of the instructional videos. And so in this case, we have an untitled design file. I'm going to close the data panel. I'm going to start off with creating a new component. This new component will be called the cow catcher. With it active, I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm going to choose the XZ plane, or the top plane here. And I'm going to, utilizing the line tool, I'm going to draw this kind of shape. I'm going to just touch the origin, and off to the left here I'm going to click, draw across it, and I'm going to draw this kind of profile that you're going to see here. Again, anytime you need lines to show up to where they're tracking like that with the dashed lines, just go up, touch them, don't click them, and then just move downward or to the side, and that'll work. All right, so from here, I'm going to go to Constraints, Midpoint, choosing this top line and choosing the origin. I'm going to lock that in. Utilizing the horizontal vertical constraint, choosing the origin, and then choosing the point, the front point, will be beneficial for us. And then utilizing the equal constraint, choosing the 2 vertical lines for the sides. As far as dimensions go, this is going to act as the bottom of the cow catcher. So from this back line to the very point is going to be 1 inch. From side to side, the overall width here, 1.80. The side length of one of these is going to be 0.25, and what you're going to see is this is the shape that comes out of it. These two, since we made them equal, this will automatically go through and apply the same dimension to the other side. I'm going to finish the sketch. We're going to end up utilizing a loft in order to go through and create the shape of the cow catcher. And so in order to do that, we need a second sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the construct panel, and I'm going to choose an offset plane. And I'm going to create an offset plane by selecting this bottom plane, or the top plane, also known as the XY plane. And I'm going to offset it by the height of our cow catcher. So the overall height of the cow catcher is 0.75. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say OK. So now that puts the work plane up here in the air, and now I can create a sketch and select that top plane. From here, I'm going to repeat the same kind of sketch as I did on the bottom. So the top part of it is going to look very similar to the bottom, except for it's just going to be a little smaller. And I'm going to apply the same geometric constraints. Midpoint for this back line to the origin, making the equal on the 2 sides here, and doing a vertical constraint between that and the point. Now I can look at applying dimensions from the back to the point. This one will be 0.75. The overall width, 1.2, and then the one of the sides, these are going to stay 0.25. And that will finish out this sketch. So I'm going to finish it. Now I've got 2 sketches. I got one that's a little, the bigger one that's for the bottom, and then I got the one for the top. And I'm going to choose the Loft command, choosing the bottom sketch, choosing the top sketch, and that's going to allow me to create a solid and create those 2 between those irregular size sketches. Saying OK. Now I can go ahead and move around to the back, creating a sketch, selecting the back portion. I'm going to create 3 circles for the pegs. Utilizing a horizontal vertical constraint, I'm going to choose the bottom circle's center point with the right circle's center point, and then the top middle circle's center point with the origin to vertically constrain them. So if you go through and it automatically puts it on the line, then you may get an error like I did, but if not, you would go through and it would align those. I'm going to also take the equal constraint, click on this first circle, go to the second one, click on the second one, and then click on the third one to apply the equal constraint because they're all going to be the same size. Dimension-wise, from this corner to the center point of the circle, horizontally, 0.275. From the bottom to the center of the circle, this is going to be 0.125. Far as from circle to circle on the bottom, from the center to center, this is going to be 1.25. For my height on my top circle, this will end up being 0.625. And then the last thing is the dimension 1 of the circle. So this is going to be 0.125. This will fully constrain the sketch. I will finish it. I'll put it in this position, extrude, choosing the circle. If you have to, because of the projection line, select both halves of the circle on the top. And then I'll make sure to select this one. And the extrusion depth are all going to be at 0.125. And I'm going to say OK. Taking the chamfer tool, I'm going to select the 3 edges on the outside of each peg. And I'm going to change that distance, so as noted, to 0.01 by 45 degrees. And I'm going to say OK. From here, I'm going to go ahead and go down to the bottom. Rotate this around to the bottom. I'm going to utilize the shell command. Clicking the bottom, I want to have the inside thickness to be, the sizing of it is going to be 0.10. So that way it applies that thickness, and I will say OK. Then, clicking on the front, I'm going to create a sketch. Clicking on the angled face of the front, I'm going to choose the offset command. Selecting the outside edge there, as long as chain selection is checked. Drag inward, and I need to do a negative 0.10 and say OK. So fully constrained there. I'm going to finish the sketch, extrude, selecting the profile. I'm going to go inward. This is going to be a negative 0.05 and say OK, so it won't cut through our shelled part. And I'm going to repeat that same process here on the other side. Selecting the angle, offsetting, choosing the outside, negative 0.10 for the offset, finishing the sketch, and extruding inward, negative 0.05. And this will complete the cow catcher for the miniature train project. Go ahead and make sure you hit save. We will call this, give it the name the cow catcher, hit save. And at this point, you should go through, have 5 parts created for the miniature train, utilizing the same techniques that you did on some of these other parts. For example, the axle peg, the hitch peg, and the linkage peg will be created a very similar way. And utilizing some of those other techniques that you've learned throughout the class, you will create the remaining 4 parts that we need in order to finish the train. In another video, later video, I will show you how to take those parts and do an assembly of your train, as well as apply some of the motion